He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood.
It is an incomprehensible act of horror that he perpetrated on this family.
A judge said Chad Doerman's bond at $20 million, which is the highest bond ever set by prosecutors.
Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, these three little boys, brothers, ages 7, 4, and 3, shot and killed nearly 2 weeks ago at their home in Claremont County.
Any of you guys see, I think it was a day or two ago, I think it was Thursday or Friday, this murderer, this father, Chad Doerman, pled guilty to all the charges and spared his daughter from having to come and testify at trial. Like, remember that case? I made a command decision not to cover it because I thought it was so heinous. He executed his children on his property. Just so heinous that I said to myself, I'm not going to subject everybody to this, because he just surrendered to the police as they came up. He had the rifle on the front steps. By a show of hands, how many here watched the coverage of that as it unfolded? I watched it, but I just, at that moment in time, I just decided that for mental health reasons, I was going to just hold back on it. I really did want to cover it. I had a whole case on it, a whole case file, folder. I watched the body cam footage, and he essentially executed his kids, chased them down with a rifle, and shot them.
Deal that spares him the death penalty, but it will send him to prison for the rest of his life.
I feel like if anybody should have got the death penalty, and it frickin' pisses me off that he was spared his life. He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air that we all breathe. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. But he pled guilty. He says that he wanted to spare his daughter from coming up and taking the stand. If somebody deserved the death penalty, this was him.
WLWT News 5's Karen Johnson in the courtroom today, live for us right now in Batavia, explaining exactly what happened. Hi, Karen.
Yeah, hey, Mike, I know there is public outrage over his life being spared, but after the hearing, the prosecutor did hand me this. It is a letter, a statement from Doerman's ex-wife, Laura, and I want to read a portion of it. I am in full agreement with how the criminal case was resolved and the decision to end the criminal case with a plea. Having a guarantee that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars is what is best for my family. Oh, keep in mind, this plea deal now prevents Laura, it prevents her daughter Alexis from having to take the stand and relive what they experienced last year.
How do you plead?
Guilty. Guilty. A word Chad Doerman repeated 5 times today. Guilty.
Did you see he had no emotion on his face? He was just like, guilty. Guilty. Like, no emotion, no nothing. He just pled guilty. Guilty. Sipped his water. You saw him, right? Guilty.
Guilty of 3 counts of aggravated murder and 2 counts of felonious assault. His victims, his 3 young sons, 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old
I mean, how horrific. And these boys were active in the baseball, in the community, like the baseball coaches. You look at these precious little angels, and you say to yourself, what in the hell? What in the hell could have went wrong? Did this guy just snap? Was this brewing for years? Was this brewing for months, weeks? What happens? What happens to people to do this? I don't know. I don't know.
Case, who Doerman gunned down and murdered at their own home. Doerman's ex-wife Laura and stepdaughter Alexis were also injured. Today, they stood feet away from Doerman as a prosecutor read their victim impact statements.
Chad, I trusted you with my life. And honestly, I looked up to you more than anyone. I saw you as my dad, not just a stepdad. Because it hurts to know I will never get to experience another day with my 3 brothers. or to make any memories anymore because their innocent lives were taken away so quickly and horribly by their own father.
Laura's statement just as emotional as she wrote about trying to save her sons from her husband, who hunted down the children.
I was injured that day, fighting with every ounce of my body.
She put herself in front of that rifle and took a bullet to try to save her children. This woman will never be the same. How could this woman be normal going forward again and be able to trust anybody? JP Eagles and Cats says he won't survive long in prison. Chris Watts is still alive in prison, and he annihilated. He murdered with his own hands. He didn't use a gun. He killed his daughters, his wife, and his unborn son. I don't necessarily buy into this statement, and I'm not singling you out, JP. I'm just singling out this comment, is that it doesn't happen as often as we think. I wish it would, and I hate that I'm saying that. But Chris Watts in 2018 pled guilty. He didn't even have a trial. He pled guilty to murdering his 2 daughters, Cece and Bella, his wife, and he stuffed his daughters in an oil tank at Endarco Field. Killed his wife who was pregnant with his son, unborn son. He's still coexisting in jail. I thought somebody would have took him out by now. But he's living and breathing. He's working out. He's going and doing all kinds of studying and socializing in jail. Yeah, he looks healthy, right? Yeah, man. This guy is evil. Now he's going to skip out on that death penalty. And did you see him crying? Starting to cry there? He was crying because, not because he was sad for what he did. He's crying because he knows he's going to prison for the rest of his life. He's never going to get out. And prison is not fun. Prison's not fun, but you're still getting to breathe and eat and live. When you took the lives of your children. Ugh.
With my life. And honestly, I looked up to you more than anyone. I saw you as my dad, not just a stepdad. Because it hurts to know I will never get to experience another day with my 3 brothers, or to make any memories anymore because their innocent lives were taken away so quickly and horribly by their own father.
Laura's statement just as emotional as she wrote about trying to save her sons from her husband, who hunted down the children.
I was injured that day, fighting with every ounce of my body to just make it stop. I struggle every day, knowing I was not successful in doing so. And now I have to live with this and wonder what more I could have done to save them. I would do anything to push them on the swing. Cover them up one more time and hear their little...
Man, now I remember and know why I didn't cover this. Because this is heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching.
And Doerman did have an opportunity to speak, but he declined. His attorney said this never would have happened, but he was delusional and in psychosis when it happened. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, you're going to hear directly from the county prosecutor here in Claremont County, Mark DeCalve.
Let's go right to that. I want to hear it. The prosecutor. I'm listening to this first time with you guys.
And inquired about life without parole.
This is the prosecutor who was in charge of charging this case. So let's hear what he says.
Inquired about life without parole. We brought in Laura the next morning, Wednesday morning, and had a very lengthy discussion with her. I cannot state to any level of significance the inordinate trauma that she has experienced. We have met with her 6 or 8 times, and it is painful to her. It is difficult for my assistant prosecutors, difficult for hardened, seasoned law enforcement, and my position became fairly clear to me throughout this process, and most recently Wednesday when we discussed this plea offer with Laura, that doing anything further would be actually an act of cruelty towards her. We had prepared her to testify. She was ready to testify next week. Alexis was ready to testify, but the trauma that these two experienced that day and continue to experience on a daily basis. My job, as I saw it this week, was to relieve them of that additional agony. And that's why we are here today.
So it's those things considered, because you were adamant early on that you were going to seek the death penalty in this case.
That's right. That's right.
People are not going to understand that a man who killed his 3 sons is not going to face the death penalty. The public is going to have a hard time understanding that.
Well, I'm happy to answer all these questions. Any question like this. Initially, and we indicted him with aggravating circumstances for the death penalty. And he will die in prison. Will he die sooner than he would die otherwise? The last 3 individuals in Claremont County who have received a death sentence. Jerry Lawson around 1988. He died in 2015 after 27 years in prison. Michael Webb, who committed an arson back in '89, killed his 3-year-old son. He died in prison in 2022 after 31 years on death row. So these things aren't a certainty as to when execution may occur. One thing I know is a certainty is that Chad Doerman will die in prison.
Do you believe that he suffers from any type of mental illness? You talk about prior calculation and design, the discussion about him wanting to kill the boys or thinking about it since October, the 8 months prior. But then there are 3 experts who evaluated him. One, I guess, was one of your experts as well.
Let me defer until Monday when we have the press conference, because we're going to have that all laid out for you. All right.
There is a certain amount of satisfaction that the public would get from a trial to see this play out. That's not going to happen.
I'm not sure what the public satisfaction would be in watching one of the worst things I've ever seen. Again, as we were preparing this case initially for the trial that you all know was moved from July to the serious mental illness hearing that was scheduled for August 5th. These are grown, strong adults. These are dispatchers. These are firefighters. These are police officers who all cry. It is, again, agony is the best phrase I can come up with, the best word I can use. And the public is entitled to see what happened here, and they're going to see it. And you're going to hear Laura's 911 call. You'll hear nothing more chilling in your entire life than she's fighting to save her children.
Now, you talk about how...
Man, oh man, this takes the cake, this one, because you hear the prosecutor here saying that all of the people involved in this thing that have watched and listened have been affected tremendously. Now, let me tell you, man, that press conference tomorrow, I'm going to watch it. People were asking about this. I got a ton of emails over the weekend about it. Let me just let the rest of this play because I didn't listen to this. So I want to hear the rest of this.
Ruling this was on everybody.
Is that Anjanette Levy from Court TV back here? From Law and Crime, I mean? That looks like Anjanette Levy. Anybody? I think that's her. Am I going crazy?
Did you have anyone at any point in this have to step away from...
That woman looks a lot like her. Maybe it's probably not her, but geez.
Working on this case because of how gruesome this was?
No, we did not. We are dedicated professionals, and as you can see, Laura Barron Allen, Katie Terpstra, Clay Tharp, and my entire staff, Stephanie Ross, they worked hand in hand with us, with the entire staff, with the Doerman family, to do the best we could to make this as easy a process on them as we could make it, and at the same time be overly prepared and ready to win this case trial.
How hard was it for you to accept this plea deal?
It was not hard. It was the right.
I'm going to tell you why it wasn't hard for that guy, because he has compassion. He cares for the family, and this guy right here, Mark, knows what he would have had to put the mom and the stepdaughter through. They would have had to testify, and that is re-victimizing them again. You know, look, if he had to do it, he would have done it, and he was ready to do it. He had them prepared. They were ready to come in next week, meaning this week. But once he realized that this guy was willing to plead guilty and not have this whole evidence and this whole what they had to do to present in court, 911 call, police dispatch, all of the police back and forth. We heard it all. Everybody's heard that. I believe it's been out there in the public and people covering it. But he said, and I'm sure that he's going to go on to say, and I didn't listen to this yet, that it wasn't hard. We heard him say it wasn't hard for him, but it's because he's thinking of the child and the mom, of what they've been through.
How hard was it for you to accept this plea deal?
It was not hard. It was the right decision to do justice for these little boys, for Clayton, for Hunter, and for Chase. And part of that justice is by giving their mom and their sister some relief. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Karen, it's in, Karen Solak asked, where is this? It's in Ohio, I believe Batavia, Ohio. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Very much. Oh, here. I'm going to hand these out. We're gonna put these on a press release, but this is a statement from the Doerman family.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so yikes. This is a hard one to recover from, but this isn't the last we'll hear about, unfortunately. Evil exists, and there's people, evil walks amongst us, and that's why Ed Wallace always says at the end of our live stream, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six. That's not a statement that's for just police and the law enforcement community. That's a statement for all of us. Think about it. Stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six. Watch your six means watch your back. So nobody could predict that their significant other, the father of their children, their husband, their boyfriends, their friends, family, will turn on them like this in such a heinous fashion, in such a violent way. But it happened. And that's what the mother was up against. That's what these children faced. Yeah, Melly, demons walk amongst us. And some of the demons that walk amongst us are some of the people that you're very comfortable with. So that's why stay prepared comes into place. You have to be prepared at a moment's notice to take action. I want to just send prayers to the mom of these children that were murdered and her surviving daughter, the stepdaughter of this monster. So I want to pray and send prayers to them for strength for tomorrow and the days to follow.